Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Most Things Hypnosis, and it's live at 5. And I'm your host. My name is ILAH Brock, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. Today, I'm wearing headphones because there's other people in the office, and it will be a short show. I have someplace else I have to be soon. I always try to start my segment with a but first thing, something, or a tidbit or whatever, but in the last week, I've learned a few things that I never knew before. And in the past couple months, I've learned some things that I never knew before. I made a list. So this week, I have learned something called black water, which is just like water, but it's black and it has some sort of mineral in it and it makes it look black. I have learned about a Facebook page. I am just still baffled. It's called Birds Aren't Real, and there's over 116,000 people on that Facebook page. I've asked questions about the birds aren't real. I looked it up, and apparently it's a satire, and it kind of segues into something new, something else actually. So somebody created this like 10 years ago, that birds aren't real, that they're actually drones, government drones. But my question is, people still kill birds and eat them. So if they're not real, how do you answer that? So the premise is all birds aren't real. So someone just came up with this idea. Well, they could have said trees, they could have said dish soap, but they said birds. So people are passionately in agreement that there are these birds aren't real. Look it up. I went to Snopes.com, and say what you will, but they have a whole article on just the pros and cons of this, and it's mostly just cons. So I learned this week about Blackwater. I learned about birds aren't real. And then the guy who did the birds aren't real, if I read this article correctly, it's because it was kind of like putting out there, almost like picking on the people who believe in flat Earth. There's a lot to be said on both sides of the controversy of flat Earth. Is there a foundation and a dome? And we're just in this big foundational piece of land that's flat and has edges? I don't know. Or are we on a globe? So I don't know. I no idea. I'm still a little iffy whether or not we went to the moon. So that's a whole other thing. So that segues into more information that I learned yesterday about this thing, this society, this group of people called Illuminati. And then someone said, spell it backwards in Google and see what happens. And so I did. And you know what came up? NASA.gov. I'm just like, what the hell's going on with our world? And this Illuminati group is just a vile group of sick people, as I was told, just very sick people. But they're everywhere. They're very controlling. They're very nice. They're kind. Go ahead, Robert. You have a comment.
Yeah, it's the NSA, the National Security Agency, not NASA.
Oh, I'm sorry, NSA, NASA. Sorry, thank you, NSA. And do you think Illuminati is NSA, or do you think that's just part of what their ploy is?
I really don't know, but I do believe there is a group like the Illuminati out there.
Oh,
Whether
yeah,
there is or not is debatable, but I honestly believe it. I believe in the one world government which we are heading to.
They have this little symbol that they put up over their face or whatever. I guess it's pretty serious. Anyway, it's sick and oh, don't even get me started. So, and then there's the the bird's not real, Blackwater, Illinois, flat Earth, and then I started thinking about my beliefs and not just my belief system, but like things that should not be politicized. And with the midterms coming up in a few weeks, I'm like, you know what, people out there, we have rights, human rights. We have rights as citizens in this country of America. And I find it abhorring that politicians exploit our rights and infringe on our rights. Rights should not be a political issue or political topic of any sort. That's just my opinion. Inflation, it shouldn't even exist based on what role, I'm sorry, on what oil costs or what paranoia is going on in the White House. Inflation is, I know it's a thing, but it shouldn't be just because one day to the next, our gas prices is where we're seeing it the most, jumping up 20 cents, 30 cents. In 1 week, it can jump up 75 cents, even more, all because somebody gets a little freaked out or something. Something else I wanted to bring up real quick is a few calls that I get every week. I get calls every week about people who are in a situation. Now, I am a hypnotherapist. I have a private practice here in Visalia, and I have opportunity to help people, and I absolutely do help people if they want to quit smoking or just learn to regulate their own stress levels or whatever. I have this big long list of things that people can actually use hypnotherapy for. I get bothered a little. I guess it's maybe something I need to work on. So you get a phone call, and it happened this past week. And this guy, probably young kid, he's probably in his late 20s, early 30s. He's just really heart-wrenched over a breakup that happened, maybe 2 weeks or 2 months before, whatever. He just can't seem to get over it. So over the phone in the consult, I give him a website to go to watch a video. And I'm going to tell you the website as well. And I encourage you just to learn about relationships. It's an amazing concept developed by an amazing mind. And but here's the caveat: you got to watch the video. There is a test that you can take to know about how you do relationships, but the video teaches you how to take that test. So if you try to take the test without watching the video, you're going to kind of F it up. So testmyrelationship.com is a phenomenal concept about, it was created or developed by Dr. John Kappas, who had this phenomenal gift to see patterns. Anyway, so I told this guy that, just go to this website, Test My Relationship, watch the video. He made an appointment with me. Now, when you make an appointment with me, I have scheduled time, and not just me, but anybody, whether you be a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, a CPA, whatever you're making the appointment, someone put you in their schedule to be there. And now when I book somebody for a first time, I'm scheduling 2.5 hours for that person in my schedule. That's 2.5 hours I am devoting to somebody, plus the time that I may have done some research prior and anything that I do after. And then, of course, I always send out an email to the new client. Excuse me, I was eating nuts. I send out a confirmation email. They have to read it, reply that they're confirming their appointment. If they don't do that, then I canceled the appointment. And of course, but their call is so desperate. I'm always going on their call. I empathize. They're hurting, and then it comes time for the appointment, and they don't show, they don't call, they don't confirm, nothing. And that happens not often, but often enough. So now I'm thinking I have to go back to deposits. Somebody, you have to make a deposit, unrefundable deposit in order for your appointment. So if they don't show up, I at least get, a $50 deposit. I'm thinking about that, but it's occurred to me that I need to start charging a deposit. Okay, something else that I wanted to just kind of quickly bring out, not that one, that's later, real quick. Where is it? Okay, so I was looking online today, and there are a bunch of things that are top debatable items in society. The top 25 in order of the most debatable issues in society today. Gun control is number one. Abortion, religious freedom, animal rights, vaccines, privacy rights, free market capitalism, global climate change, evolution, marijuana legalization, capital punishment, marriage equality, immigration reform, the Trump presidency. That's number 14. The opioid crisis, the transgender rights, the federal livable wage, the white supremacy, the Green New Deal, electoral college, Black Lives Matter, cancel culture, student debate crisis, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the universal health care, evolution, I think is on there twice. Yeah, number 9 and number 9. Oh, I'm sorry, that I had it twice. The next one, oh, that was it. Universal health care. That's all 25. Sorry, I must have written the list twice. So I'm not going to go over all 25 of these today. I am just going to go over gun control today. And then I'm going to read something to you. And then I have to scoot because I have a meeting to go to. So this all came from a website, I think it's called thebestschools.org. But these are the number 1 debatable issues today. And gun control is number 1, followed by abortion and, of course, religious freedoms. It's sad that, as I think about this, that these are even issues. These were never issues 70 years ago. It was just what is. Our rights. We have rights as humans that cannot be taken away unless you cause them to be taken away. You have to cause them. So there are 3 countries that make gun ownership a right of the people. The United States is number 1 in gun ownership. Mexico and Guatemala are the 3 countries that make gun ownership a right. But there are 175 countries that allow gun ownership, but many of those don't allow it to be a right. So they make it a privilege, I guess. So what does an armed public do, or what can they do? A responsible armed public? They can protect themselves. The top 10 countries with the highest gun ownership. Okay, I didn't go through, I'm not going to go through all of those. I'm just going to talk about the United States because that's where I live. In the United States, for each 100 people in the US, there are 120.5 civilian-owned firearms. And that was in 2017, and this information, I have not yet found it to be updated. Civilians own an estimated over 393 million firearms in the United States. And the population in 2017 was 326,474,000. The number doesn't appear to be updated, but 393 million civilians own guns. I'm sorry, there are guns owned, firearms that are owned. And of those, 6.06 million are unregistered. 39% of men in the United States and 22% of women in the United States own a firearm, at least one. 77.49 million adults as of July of 2022 are gun owners in the United States. That's a big cry. Now, gun ownership and how many firearms are in the United States. There was 2 different topics. I got a little confused too. If guns are really bad, why do many good people have them? And if they're pushing 400 million firearms owned by people, we're only hearing about maybe less than 1% of those that get hurt by them. And I'm really sorry that people get hurt by them. I have a toy gun. It's just a toy gun. It's actually a pen, right? And we can just imagine it's real. It's got a little stand. It has a cap, but I don't know what happened. I think it had a scope on it and it fell off. But it doesn't do anything it writes. I have to make it work. So it's got ink in it. So we can consider the ink the ammunition. And I have to put the pen to the paper and make it write. And it writes fine. It's a little uncomfortable because of, the way it's geared. It's more novel than anything. But this kind of thing scares people. And I understand because it can be very scary. It should be a little bit scary. Who was doing the hurting of people getting hurt with guns? Typically, it's mentally unbalanced people. And it's self-induced or it's disease of some sort. If you're raising your hand, I don't see it because I'm not looking at hand raising. So you're going to have to just chime in because I've got my little Word documents up here. Okay, so I offer this information because it's important to understand some things. We, as American citizens, have a right to own a gun to protect our people. You can't use a gun to protect your property. It's used to protect people, not chattel. Okay. Chattel is just stuff you own. We are privileged to drive. Driving is not a right. It's something that can be taken away. Rights don't get taken away unless in this country, unless you've committed a felony that requires your rights to be taken away. We have the right to pursue happiness. We have the right to define happiness for ourselves. We have the right to liberty and freedom. Those are our rights. You have, and when it comes to the gun issue and the gun control, why would somebody want to control guns or abortion or religious freedoms or animal rights or vaccines or any of those other things that I said? Why would they want to control it? Because they want to take away those rights. But remember, those are our rights. And I have a real big problem with people messing with my rights. And I'm neither Democrat or Republican. I'm not liberal or conservative, but I probably tend to the right a little bit more than the left. I'm apolitical or moderate down the middle. So rules are made, laws are made, but they're not made for me because I'm not going to break the laws when it comes to gun use or whatever the law is. I'm a law-abiding citizen. So why are laws made when a criminal doesn't care? Criminals are, that by the very nature of the definition, don't care about laws. So let's create some more laws to limit those that are being responsible. I just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Anyway, I know this has nothing to do with hypnosis, and that's okay because you know what? The title says most things hypnosis, because I knew at some point I was going to come up with something like this. When you have a gun, you have to have some kind of stimulus to make it work, to go off. You have to pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger. Otherwise, it's just going to sit there. And for this pen to work, I have to put it to paper or my hand and, write. I'm putting ink on my hand. I have to do it. It won't just do it by itself. It has to have some way of making that do it on its own. It won't do it. So let me throw a parenthetical question out to you. And I just said it earlier. If you're a criminal, does that mean you're going to obey the law? Seriously, you're a criminal. Why? Why would you? Criminals just do that. They don't obey the law. Okay, so yesterday, now I'm going on to a new segment. You can bash me. Go ahead, Robert. I didn't see your hand.
I would disagree that gun control has nothing to do with hypnosis. If you keep watching all these fake news channels like CNN and MSNBC, repetition, they keep telling you the same thing over and over until you become hypnotized to believe it.
You are right. The media and social world is definitely desensitizing people. Absolutely, you're right. And I stand corrected. I should have said that. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that input. Okay, let's go on to something a little more exciting so I can get out of here. I got to move a piece of furniture out of my car. I'm driving around with a recliner in my car. Don't ask, it's a long story, maybe next week. Yesterday, I got to do a quick seminar on mental bank. Success is not by accident, excuse me. And I started to share my story, why I do what I do. But it took me a while to write this, and I thought it turned out okay. I use a lot of modalities myself to just keep me going, keep me positive, and keep me headed in the right direction. I'm going to read this. And then, my hope, even a little bit, might be inspiring for you to write your own story. I am a hypnotherapist. I'm here to help people, and you're welcome to reach out and talk to me. And if you don't want to talk to me, you can talk to Robert. Robert is also Santa Claus. He's Santa Claus. And, you get the double whammy with Robert. You get Santa Claus and a hypnotherapist all in one. He won't steer you wrong because I'll tell on him. Okay, here it is. How did I get here? My journey is very new and it started in August of 2017. And at this writing, today's October 13th, 2020, 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I was married with 3 adult children and they're all living on their own. I was in law school, a deaf advocate and a sign language interpreter, part-time. I was 52 and a half years old and I decided that I needed help. So the universe heard my cry. And that's when I met a hypnotherapist, Jake Rubin. And that was on August 3rd, 2017. And from that day to this very day, just a tad over 5 years, my life has made such an enormous change in a direction I never even saw coming. I found a calling and became my career, hypnotherapist. I quit law school, but I still advocate for the deaf and interpret occasionally. I quit a lucrative job as a high-end property manager in the upper echelons of West LA. I divorced after 36 years of marriage, but we do remain friendly. I started caring for me for the first time in my life, and I met the love of my life in 2020. Something wonderful happened in 2020, people. A little backstory. In January 2016, after a week-long bout of an upper respiratory infection, the common cold with a high fever, I discovered that I could no longer taste or smell. Some of you may already know that as you listen to this. It's called anosmia, and it is a thing. So when I state here that I cannot taste, I mean I cannot tell you other than that it's sweet, sour, bitter, or salty. And I don't know if it's chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry, just that it's sweet, sour, bitter, or salty. So when I say that there's no smell, I mean 98 to 99% of the time, there is no smell whatsoever outside of different gases like ammonia or gasoline and such, as I cannot smell the odor of even natural gas. So if there's a gas leak and I'm with you, you're going to have to tell me. The condition became a depression that led me into a self-induced eating disorder where I was pushing almost 300 pounds and a very unhappy, dejected life. Fast forward to August of 2017 now, and that all changed. The weight came off only for the pandemic, but for the pandemic, I helped me find some of it. I was becoming so energized and happy, loving my life despite this disorder. I started to look at it like an amputation. I can't fix it, so I live with it and I make the best of it. It became my own impetus to move forward. Because of anosmia, I found my appreciation. And if I can live this happy of a life, I don't care if I ever smell or taste again. I have never been happier within my own self. And to add to that, an amazing partner is beyond words. Because of hypnotherapy, I am able to be here. I think it saved my life personally. And now I live in Visalia almost 2 years, and I'm a transplant from the Los Angeles area. I reopened my hypnotherapy practice. Not going to answer that. I reopened my hypnotherapy practice here, and I'm overjoyed with pride and happiness every step of my journey that I get to make this incredible special contribution to helping people. And I have the support of an amazing man who's like my cheerleader, my right and left arm. Behind every successful woman is a man who just supports her. And he's retired after over 30 years with the city of Visalia. Hang on just a second. Hang on, people, I'm almost done. Let's see. Be right. I'm supposed to go someplace and they can't get in the building. So I really do have to I must hasten. So my new life script, I've been writing it since November 2017, and it allows me to make changes in my life and desires and changes, and I become this solid lifestyle, and it just gets better. Better. It just gets better and better and better. My question is, do you want to make a change? Because if you do, you have to change your life. You got to first start by changing your mind. And with that, I've got people waiting outside, so we have to leave. Take care. Thank you all for joining or watching on the review. And I will look forward to next week. And I've got, thank you. Thank you, Robert, for putting the test test up there. I meant to do that too. Take care, everybody, and we'll be back next week with another.